Hi everyone, welcome to Elvis Presley Past, Present and Future, where we are continuing on our Elvis journey. This week, I was going to conclude 1973, but I got sent down a rabbit warren, basically. Got completely sidetracked when I was doing the information for this week's show. I went off on a tangent, and so I thought I would keep going on that tangent. The first bit of information that I was looking up led me into today's topic, and right away from finishing 1973, which I will do next week, I've made a video today of Elvis's karate. Now, that is a subject that a lot of us, or most of us, knew. They always did. But how much do we know about it? How much are we aware of Elvis's involvement in karate? So, in doing this episode, it is going to be a fairly lengthy one. I have researched and I have found basically Elvis's karate from beginning, when he started it, to the end. I have got lots of information, who taught him, what belts he got, where he trained, and I thought it's something different that I haven't really seen on a lot of Elvis channels, was Elvis's karate years. So, I hope you will indulge me this week, like I said, forgive me for not completing 73, which I will do next week, I promise. And I hope you all enjoy this episode of Elvis and his karate. Dave Hebler met Elvis for the first time at Ed Parker's American Kempo studio in Santa Monica, California, where a number of black belts were training. He was on the mats working out when he noticed a commotion at the door. In walked, oh my God, Elvis Presley, Hebler said. I was like, wow, that's Elvis Presley. What's he doing here? The next thing he knew, Elvis, who was a karate enthusiast, was on the mats, participating in the class, and he ended up being his sparring partner. He didn't know the material that we were working with, Dave Hebler said. It would have been a chore for anybody to walk into a karate school and get out on the mats and work out with 15 black belts in a system you're not familiar with. So I helped him as his partner and showed him the moves. We had a good session. As Elvis was about to leave, Ed Parker called him over and asked me to show Elvis a technique called the Wowee. Basically, what it was is a series of movements, 13 strikes that I could do in right around 2 seconds. It was fast. I did that technique for Elvis, and he was impressed. 2 days later, he got a call from Ed Parker, who said Elvis wanted him to come out to his house in Beverly Hills. Dave Hebler said there were a few other people just sitting around and chatting, just having a good time. Elvis excused himself and asked Dave to wait while he and the others in the room went outside to see something in the driveway. Dave Hebler said Elvis came back inside and told him that he needed his help with something and to come outside. There, sitting in the driveway, was a 1971 Mercedes-Benz 280 SL. Now, Dave said, I don't know what he meant by I need your help. So I go out there and everybody is standing around this gorgeous car. Hebler said, yeah, Elvis, what can I help you with? Elvis said he had a problem with the car and he needed me to drive it away for him. I said, okay, where would you like me to take it? He said, anywhere you want to go, it's your car. He gave me the keys and the paperwork. I was just dumbfounded. I was stunned. This was only the second time I'd ever met this guy, and he gives me a car. I'm fumbling around trying to say thank you, and he just started laughing. He said, enjoy your new car, Dave. And they all went back in. That was my introduction to Elvis. Dave said, Elvis paid a surprise visit to his Kenpo studio in Glendora in July of 1972 and was wearing a turban on his head. There are pictures of him wearing that turban along with my daughters who are in the pictures with him. It was funny. Everybody was wondering what he was doing wearing a turban. I was thinking the same thing, so I just asked him. He said, when I was getting ready to leave the house and come over here to visit you, I noticed my hair looked like crap. I didn't want to go out in public with my hair looking like that, so I just grabbed this turban and slammed it on my head. Elvis gave him a gold TCB necklace and asked him to be his bodyguard and personal Kenpo trainer. I had just gotten divorced, so I thought it would be a great way to meet women, Dave said. So I said, yeah, I'm your guy. Hebler became part of the entourage known as the Memphis Mafia and shared security duties with cousins Sonny West and Red West, and also Dick Robb. Elvis had two great passions in his life. The first great passion was singing. The second passion belonged to karate, and his interest lasted until his death. This side of Elvis is known to insiders of the martial arts, but in the Elvis fan world, virtually not much is known, and big are the discussions about his skills. If he really had a black belt, how high he ranked, which these questions persist to this day. Much has been written in the press about Elvis's career and his life, but his commitment and interest for the martial arts hasn't been given a lot of attention, except for his handmade $1,000 karate gi. Elvis was fascinated and impressed by the Far Eastern sport since he first came in contact with it. Not only the sporty side, but also the underlying philosophy based behind the martial arts. During his years of intensive learning, practicing and studying the Far Eastern martial art and the philosophy, Elvis learned different karate styles. He learned the Shotokan style with Jürgen Seidel, the pioneer of karate sport in Germany. American Kenpo with Ed Parker, grandmaster and father of the American Kenpo style. Chito Ryu with Hank Slamansky, an instructor of the Navy SEALs. And Pasei Ryu with Kang Ree, a Korean master. Exactly when Elvis first came into contact with karate is unfortunately not known. It is certain, though, that Elvis, during his military basic training at Fort Hood in April 1958, he showed interest in these martial arts. During his training, he saw a demonstration in which judo or jiu-jitsu was demonstrated. There were excellent teachers among the instructors at Fort Hood, and Elvis was very impressed by the various defences that exist in martial arts. The foundation was laid for his passion of karate. During his deployment in Germany, 1958 to 1960, Elvis heard of Jürgen Seidel from Usingen. Seidel was the expert of Japanese Shotokan karate in Germany. To make the karate sport public, the youth singer picked up the celebrity trick. He wrote to Elvis and offered him free lessons if he would advertise for the karate sport. Surprisingly, Elvis said yes immediately. Shotokan karate emphasizes breathing techniques, long-held stable positions, and powerful punches, but also elements of the mind and body control. The systems are clearly defined in the 20 rules, which are based on the ancient warrior code and also on the Zen philosophy. A few of those rules are: karate begins with respect and ends with respect. In karate, there is no first attack. The art of mind comes before the art of technology. Know yourself first, then the other. Learn to control your mind and then liberate it. Don't think about winning, but think about how you do not lose. Jürgen Seigel recalls Elvis's first lesson. To shake off the mob of fans that Elvis consistently besieged him, we met secretly in a garage. I taught Elvis twice a week until the end of his service in the army. We trained each time for a full 3 hours without interruption. Elvis was athletic and toned. He reacted coolly and accurately. At his own request, I grabbed him very hard. Elvis made amazing progress. Between training days, he practiced several hours a day. He trained like a madman, even after a very busy service day. I asked him if he was ambitious. Elvis replied, "In karate? No, certainly not, no. But it's more than just a sport for me. It comes right after my music. There is no hobby for which I have spent so much time." When the temperature dropped further and further below zero, the Usinger karate champion and the rock and roll idol trained in Elvis's home in Bad Nauheim, which he had rented for himself and his family. Seidel's visit to Elvis at Elvis's home in Germany is also confirmed by an unknown eyewitness. December 6, 1959, a Sunday, a red VW Beetle with silver trims parked in front of the house. Close in front of the white 2-story house were whispering and giggling a couple of schoolgirls during their school break. The girls held their breath. The front door opens. Yes, it's really him, Elvis Presley. They yell. Some jump for joy and others are downright speechless. But on this day, he does not go into the red VW Beetle. On the other side of the street, a car stops and a man in a karate suit gets out. It's Jürgen Seidel, Elvis's karate teacher. Seidel was always cool and professional. He was not impressed by the fact that his student was an international celebrity. I think Elvis admired Seidel's confidence and skills. Seidel was impressed by how humble his student was, mainly because he realized how much the American loved the glittering world of show business. Elvis told him that he had ordered a car for his return to the States. The outside, black, and inside clad with black leather. He basked in show business, but in my presence, he never bragged, said Seidel. The star had always insisted to be tackled as hard as any other karate fighters. During a guest workout in Bad Homburg at Kaiser and Friedrich School, another karate student had beaten him to the ground accidentally. Elvis just got up with, never mind. Before the rock idol returned to the United States in March 1960, Jürgen Seidel awarded Elvis the brown belt. A year later, in 1961, Elvis wrote his former teacher, full of pride that he's now wearing a black belt. And this was the letter that he wrote. Dear Mr. Seidel, George, I wish to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to teach me the basic steps of karate. You have been very patient in teaching me, and I want you to know that I've learned a lot and that I'm very satisfied. This little gift is not a payment for the lessons, but just to show you my appreciation for the time and patience. Thank you again. I'm your friend, Elvis Presley, 3rd KYU Karate. Elvis penned another letter to Jurgen Seidel in the autumn of 1960. Dear Jurgen, hello there. How's everything with you? I've been doing a bit of horseback riding lately, and it's really keeping me in shape. As you probably know, I'm just now completing my newest movie entitled Black Star, which was later renamed Flaming Star, which will be in Technicolor. Dolores Del Rio plays my mother in the film. My newest record album will be released in the near future. The songs are taken from the movie G.I. Blues. I certainly hope you like it as well as my last album, Elvis is Back. I want you to know how much I appreciate everything you're doing for me, and I hope I can repay you with the movies and records I'm making now. I better close for now. May God bless you. Loving you, Elvis Presley. A third letter to Jurgen Seidel was written by Elvis on the 5th of February 1962. Jurgen Seidel, Germany West. Dear George, I have just arrived home in Memphis and found your book of karate waiting for me. It was very thoughtful of you to send me a copy, and it appears to be a very excellent book. I have not forgotten about you, but my work schedule has made it impossible for me to correspond with anyone. I have attended my first degree black belt. The examination was given to me by a United States Commissioner. When time allows, I practice as much as possible. Everyone here is fine, and I hope that this new year will be a great one for you. Your friend Elvis A. Presley. 4 years before Elvis's death, Seidel again got another letter from America in which Elvis announces his wish to visit Seidel if he ever came back to Germany. Attached were photos of the karate dojo that Elvis had opened in Memphis, the Tennessee Karate Institute. But the visit did not happen, as Elvis died before he could make the visit to his friend. Dear Mr. Seidel, you may be somewhat surprised hearing from me after so many years. I tried to locate you some few months back and wasn't able to find you. Then my dad wrote to the postmaster in Bad Homburg, and that is how we found out your whereabouts. The postmaster was very prompt and successful in finding you for us. I'm certainly glad to find out your address because I wanted to write to you. First of all, I want to thank you for introducing me to karate and wanted you to know I kept it up throughout the years and have been very successful with it, and now holding the 7th degree black belt. I am enclosing the picture that was taken at the time I was awarded the 7th degree belt. I understand that you are still involved with karate, which I'm very glad to hear. I sincerely hope that all is well with you, and I hope to keep in touch with you by mail. If I ever get back to Germany, I will certainly look you up, because I would certainly like to see and talk to you about all the things that has happened since we last saw each other. Well, take care of yourself, and the best of luck, success, and happiness to you. Sincerely, Elvis Presley. P.S. The man pictured with me is Master Kang Ree. He's an 8th degree black belt. He has a studio here in Memphis and is my active instructor here. Jurgen Seidel has seen Elvis in a way as only a few people knew him. not as an idolized and celebrated star, but as a dedicated athlete and a private citizen. After training, they often spoke for hours. Elvis was very open-minded and interested in many things. We talked about all sorts of things: politics, literature, military service, and of course karate, says Jurgen. In contrast, I had never been interested in his music and career. I do not even have an autograph. He had an incredible wit and was one of my most talented students. Fast, strong, and hard. Jurgen Seidel died on August 3, 2002. After his discharge from the army and return to America, began the next phase of Elvis's career. He resumed his career as an actor. During this time, Elvis met another big name of the martial arts, Grandmaster Edmund Parker, who was the father of American Kenpo. During filming in 1960, Elvis heard of a karate demonstration at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, which was given by Ed Parker, and was without the knowledge of Parker. Elvis was a spectator at the demonstration. Elvis was very impressed by the innovative methods that Parker presented to the public and the flowing movements of Kenpo. After the show, Elvis went to Ed Parker and introduced himself. Parker remembers this moment. One afternoon in 1960, I gave a group of actors at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel in Los Angeles a demonstration. After the presentation, all who had come to see me backstage were enthusiastic and amazed and delighted by the demonstration. As the group began to leave the room, I was shocked to see that Elvis was with his entourage and friends. Elvis came to me and said, "I do not know if you know me. My name is Elvis Presley." I smiled to myself and was very impressed by his modesty. He said, "You are very innovative." We left the room, went to the pool, and talked there for 3 hours. He told me about his great interest in karate and that he had learnt to limited extent karate during his time in the army in Germany. He noticed that my system would obviously be groundbreaking. It was introduced in Germany in a strictly traditional karate style, but he liked the flowing motions of my style. He noted the various attack and defense methods of my system and said, "I can see you're a rebel in your field, and I am a rebel in my field." That was a great compliment, and it was a point that sealed our friendship. This day was the beginning of a close friendship that lasted 17 years. Not long after, he began to train with me. I was impressed with Elvis's questions. He was not a know-it-all. He listened to me attentively, listened to what I had to say, and did not interrupt me. He was always attentive, friendly, and enthusiastic. No matter what it was or who was teaching, he remained attentive, courteous, and always at hand to delve fully into the subject. Elvis learnt Kenpo mainly at his home in Beverly Hills, but also on tour and occasionally in my studio in West Los Angeles. When Elvis began training with Ed Parker, he was still a brown belt. Elvis's instructors were understandably against it to promote him only because of him being a star. And so, there was nothing else for it. Elvis had to earn his black belt. The solution? Ed Parker sent Elvis to Henry Slamansky. The opinion was that if he survived, he has proved that he has qualified for the black belt. Hank Slamansky was a master in the Cheeto Rice style and trainer of Navy SEALs, the Air Commandos, and Army Air Forces. Slamansky was quite selective about who he trained in the old-style shichiryu. He took Elvis as a student, as a favour to his former student and Elvis teacher, Ed Parker. There was a conversation, a meeting of the minds with Slamansky and Parker, with mutual respect for each other. Elvis's previous training up to a brown belt came into play in making Slamansky's decision. Elvis was in top physical condition at that time and confident he would make the grade. Hank Slamansky said later that he wanted to find out what kind of wood the kid was carved out of. According to Slamansky, the training was as follows. The first day of training was designed that Elvis could train as he was used to doing it. He was in good physical shape and able to keep up with the hard training drill as good as the other students. The second session, Elvis got the first taste of a real full contact training. Hank took his master instructor, a 4th Dan degree black belt, Sergeant Melvin Sawyer, to the side and told him to keep away from Elvis's face, but to put him down. I want you to hurt him bad, and even if it should mean a few broken ribs. All stood aside to see if Elvis was real, if he was the king or just a whimpering candy ass. Sawyer treated low-ranking belts just like they were dirt under his feet until they made their black belt. The battle between Sawyer and Elvis began slowly, as Sawyer wanted to find out how responsive Elvis was. Elvis had already been observed during the training hour, and they realised that he was never exposed to such a fight. At a nod from Slamansky, Sawyer exploded with a series of full contact blows to Elvis's body, which dropped him on his hands and knees on the floor. It was obvious that Elvis was hurt and in pain. Hank said, I saw that Elvis got up slowly with that sneer on his face. Then I saw his eyes, what we usually see only in war. Elvis wanted to kill. As the two men once again clashed, I stepped in to break up Sawyer and Elvis. But I had found out what I wanted to find out. The kid was a fighter, not a coward or a quitter. After 6 weeks of intense training and persistent suffering inflicted by Hank Slamansky and his instructor, Elvis was ready to be tested. The day finally arrives on July 21, 1960 in Memphis. Henry Slamansky was putting on an exhibition at a Memphis school, and Elvis too was there taking some publicity pictures. After the event, Slamansky put Elvis to his final test. He and his instructors pushed him to the limit, but Elvis proved to be worthy. Elvis passed his test as he was extremely tough and very grateful. He qualified for 1st degree black belt. The word came back from Hank to Ed Parker. The kid ain't pretty, but he's tough. And he's a black belt. Ralph Jones, a member of the Special Forces in the US Army, relates his eyewitness account. I was there when Elvis was awarded his black belt from Slamansky and his instructors. They took him into a gym and locked the door. He was in the gym for over 2 hours and you could hear the thumps outside the building. He surely earned his belt that day. 2 amazing things happened. Slamansky took off his Chito Ryu pin that was given to him by Chitos and handed it to Elvis. That's the pin that you can see in that picture. The second remarkable thing was Henry took off his one and only tricolour belt off his 9th degree, and the only one in the world, he gave it to Elvis and told him to dye it black. And that's his belt that he took off and told Elvis to dye black. The respect that Henry had for Elvis had to be extraordinary for him to do what he did. It is apparent that Elvis had the gumption not only to make the first grade as a first Dan black belt under Slamansky, but also to become a 2nd degree. On October 21, 1963, Slamansky awarded Elvis with his 2nd degree black belt. Elvis had the honour of being the first civilian to be awarded a black belt by Slamansky. He held this honour in such high regard that he carries his cards with him until the day he died. After his return from Slamansky training camp, Elvis trained a lot with Ed Parker. It was as if he were Elvis's personal trainer, and between the two there was a very intense friendship. Where Elvis occurred, you can be sure that Ed Parker was there. Parker operated 2 karate schools, one in Honolulu, Oahu, Hawaii, his home island, and a school in California. Ed Parker was not a paid employee, but more of a fatherly friend and advisor, and at Elvis concerts together with former bodyguards responsible for Elvis's personal security. That is a medal that Elvis received. And he also penned a note to Charlie Hodge. You can see what he said there. Charlie, take my gold medal Kempo Karate ID to Thunderbird Jewelers and have my name engraved on it and have 8th degree black belt put on it, and September 5, 1974. Wait while they do it, I want it today. When you see Elvis of the early years and compare it with the Elvis after training at karate, you can clearly see how nonchalant and confident he acts. Unlike in the past, where the sensitive rock star often seemed very unsure. Ed Parker once said, after every hour of training, he was more confident and self-conscious. This was certainly not just the fact that Elvis was older, but also generally justified in the philosophy of Kenpo and karate. We experienced a beautiful, unforgettable time that no one can take away, and Parker wears his memories of Elvis always in his heart. Ed Parker said, Elvis was a damn good black belt, by any standards. He had a lot of guts, and pain didn't bother him. If he got hit while we were working out, he took it like a man. In fact, if you did hit him, he'd come right back at you. He was tough and had a lot of courage. From 1970 to 1974, Elvis trained under Master Kang Ree in Memphis. Kang Ree was referred to Elvis by Ed Parker, his former teacher in California. Parker told Elvis that Ree has a very good reputation and praised him to the skies. Kang Ree said, Elvis Presley was a legend, even in my homeland of Korea. When I received a phone call from a man who identified himself as Elvis Presley and told me that he was interested in continuing his studies in the martial arts under my direction, it occurred to me that this was most probably someone's idea of a joke. However, several hours later, I found myself seated behind my desk with Elvis Presley seated across from me. Elvis told me that it was at Master Parker's suggestion that he contacted me. I was more than flattered. I was overwhelmed. Elvis was very humble. In many ways, he taught me more than I taught him. In the 4 years under Master Ree, Elvis chose, like all other students in training, an animal name. His first choice was the name Panther, but later, due to existing political implications, he changed the name to Tiger. He explained that the name Panther might be the wrong name for him because there was a militant group called Black Panther. He feared that most might interpret the name Panther as if he was supporting this movement and their motives. He wanted to rule out the possibility of such an impression. Kangri says he insisted on training and teaching in regular classes with other students. He quickly realized that students were watching him rather than paying attention in the class. He asked me to arrange a demonstration which would allow the students to view his technique and see he was attending class as a martial artist and not as an entertainer. I selected a day when a promotion test was already scheduled and combined the two events. I selected this day because Elvis particularly enjoyed working with children, and the student to be tested was a young boy. Elvis, who normally trained in a traditional uniform, considered the demonstration a type of performance. Therefore, I designed for him a special uniform and belt as a sort of costume. The uniform is trimmed in red satin, has the TCB patch which Elvis designed on the left chest, and the crown fist patch on the left sleeve. The belt is a black belt embroidered with Elvis's personal information, with all but the embroidered ends covered in the same red satin. Kangri said in the early part of the demonstration, Elvis was demonstrating a kicking technique when his pants ripped. Embarrassed, Elvis explained to me and the class that he did not wear any underwear and asked me, "Now what do I do?" Realizing that the demonstration of further kicking techniques was out, Elvis proceeded to demonstrate a variety of self-defense against an attacker armed. He demonstrated several defenses at close range and then stepped back. He pretended to demonstrate a defense against a gun technique from more than 5 feet away. He then dropped to his knees, explaining that the only defense from that distance is to pray. Myself, the students, and all spectators laughed and clapped. He also demonstrated his fighting stance and jokingly challenged me to a fight, which everyone found entertaining. But as well as demonstrating, Elvis participated in the testing of the students by being part of the black belt judging panel. He watched intently as the student worked for his promotion, and as others, myself included, demonstrated. Once during a training session, Elvis was instructing a female student in a breakaway technique, which called for the victim to scrape the shins of the assailant. After repeated attempts by Elvis to get her to perform properly and his orders understood, the student came in so hard against his shins that he almost collapsed in pain. She had obviously learnt. Younger students in the class were often frightened and intimidated by Elvis's presence. Upon learning of this, Elvis called aside a 9-year-old student. He spoke privately with him and then gave him his clock, which was engraved Elvis Presley. Kang Ree said, "Normally, in a traditional martial arts school, no one is allowed to train while wearing socks or shoes. However, on this particular day, I made an exception for Elvis because only a few days before, Elvis had surgery to correct an ingrown toenail, and I did not want his foot to become infected. Elvis also had an injury to his hand." You can see the back of his hand there. A fan reaching out to touch him had inadvertently scratched the back of his hand, and Elvis had not gotten treatment for the scratch, which subsequently became infected. Elvis said that his hand looked much worse than what it was. Elvis was a deeply religious person. Towards the end of the demonstration, I requested that Elvis offer a prayer for the students. It was very moving and beautiful. On June 4, 1973, Elvis gave Kang Ree a deluxe Cadillac Eldorado. This was no ordinary gift. Vernon had given this car with the Continental rear and the silver front grille to Elvis for his birthday. So what made this gift so unusual? This car was specially customized for Elvis, and he drove it about 10 months before he gave it. He drove it for about 10 months before he gave it to Kang Ree. Close friends of Elvis, such as Linda Thompson, said that Elvis rarely gave away a car that was customized for him, and especially one that he used personally. But because he had such great respect for his karate instructor, he wanted to express his feelings and respect for Kang Ree. Kang Ree was the recipient of much of Elvis's generosity. Elvis gave Ree $50,000 towards the building of a new karate school, jewelry and guitars, some of which can be seen on display at the Memphis Music Hall of Fame. During the time at Kang Ree School, Elvis designed his own karate patch for his gi. He came up with the TCB creed during this time also. More respect for fellow men. Respect for fellow students and instructors. Respect for all styles and techniques. Body conditioning, mental conditioning. Meditation for calming and stilling of the mind and body. Sharpen your skills. Increase mental awareness for all those who might choose a new outlook and personal philosophy, and freedom from competition. TCB techniques. All techniques into one. Signature of Elvis, including rank of 8th degree black belt, applying all techniques into one. In 1974, Elvis decided to open his own karate school in Memphis. He equipped the studio with black and red carpets, even painted the walls in black and red in order to create an oriental atmosphere. The dojo school acted under the name Tennessee Karate Institute, in which, when he was in Memphis, Elvis often trained. The school was headed by Bill Wallace and Red West, who was also heavily engaged in karate and was also a black belt. On July 4, 1974, Elvis opens his new studio with an hour-and-a-half long karate demonstration featuring himself and karate master Ed Parker. Bill Wallace said, "One evening when I was working out, in walked Elvis. Kang Ree stopped the class and asked everybody to sit down, then introduced me to Elvis Presley. He said he'd seen me win the US Championship in Dallas, where I knocked out Skipper Mullins, and complimented me on my kicking. We talked for about 10 minutes, and I thought, wow, that was fun. Thank you very much. Elvis just dropped by to say hi and didn't work out or demonstrate anything. He was just a very nice gentleman. Bill said, Elvis asked me to come work for him. He said he wanted to open a karate school in Memphis and would like me to run it. Also, wanting a place to train, he said he'd stop in once in a while and work out. Basically, Elvis was doing self-defense techniques because he couldn't spar. It was simply too dangerous. He had to preserve his looks and voice, so contact to the face or neck was out. He also didn't want to risk breaking any bones, so he decided he'd just demonstrate self-defense moves and some Ed Parker stuff, like taking full power shots to the stomach. I'd throw kicks at him, but I knew I couldn't hit him. Elvis Presley was a fine athlete, but he wasn't a fighter because of all the restrictions that came with his career. That doesn't mean he wasn't able to fight though. His technique, his sidekick and his punches looked as good as anyone else's. His great passion for karate showed in the years of his film career in Hollywood. During this era, he displayed his board-breaking skills many times just for offset boredom between takes on movie sets. In the breaks, Elvis and Red West demonstrated karate for the film crew. Since boards were then never smashed by hand, it didn't always go off without a violation of the hands or fingers. Elvis himself even spoke of a board-breaking incident while on stage in Vegas in 1974. He said from the stage, I did this movie, GI Blues, and we would work out, do our karate between takes. We would do board breaking with tiles and bricks and stuff, just demonstrating. I blocked a kick the wrong way against my fingers, which is wrong. This happened in the middle of a movie with Juliet Prowse. I did a love scene with a guitar, and here was this big fat hand. Nothing I could do about it. There it is right there. Look at that hand. Nothing I could do about it. They tried to put makeup on it, but it looked like it belonged to another person. That one hand was normal, and the other hand was black. It looked like somebody blew it up, boy. How many of us have noticed that in the restaurant scene with Juliet Prowse in GI Blues? How many of us have noticed that hand? Elvis did it. Doing karate. Offset. In many fight scenes in his films, you can see his karate kicks and his defensive technique, which he learned in training with Ed Parker. Some actors are simply taught the moves on set, but Elvis helped choreograph his movie fights. Elvis first instigated karate and dance moves for his 1968 comeback special in a skit to Big Boss Man. The dance company performing with Elvis incorporated sharp techniques of karate with soft, rhythmic motion of dance. Elvis was the first to see and present the unique beauty of the combined forms. In 1969, when Elvis returned to life performing, he revealed a stage style to which his martial arts experience was integral. His act included a lot of hand motions and footwork taken from Kenpo and choreographed with his music, as well as a variety of punching and other arm movements. He also threw a lot of side and roundhouse kicks and would often drop to a single leg split, side splits, while shifting to the other leg during songs like Suspicious Minds, Poke Salad Annie. He also patterned his stage attire on the karate gi. In the early 70s, there were very few karate schools. The sport was not popular, mainly because karate was always surrounded with an aura of mystery. The only knowledge of karate that the population had came from advertising. But Elvis knew the advantage and benefits of karate and thought the world should be better informed about it. He also wanted karate greats like Bill Wallace to get the attention and respect they deserved. So he wanted to make a karate documentary which would tell the history of karate. And these are Elvis's handwritten notes about the film. The film should start with a close-up of Elvis's face, narrating the content of the film while the cameras would go back slowly until you will see Elvis dressed in his white gi in a full body shot. A further adjustment would show Elvis surrounded by hundreds of karate students who demonstrate while Elvis speaks. As a conclusion of the opening, you see Elvis and all the students stand on top of a mountain. George Waite, a black belt and filmmaker, wanted to do a film about karate. Waite took his idea to his teacher, Ed Parker. Parker was advertising his Long Beach International Tournament. He said, I showed Parker the concept I was actually thinking about. I wanted him for the film. But he picked up the phone and called Elvis. Waite said, Parker took me to Elvis's house in Beverly Hills at 5 p.m. Elvis was just getting up and was dressed in pajama bottoms, covered with a karate uniform top with a robe over that. We sat at the dining room table and I talked to him about my idea. I had a 2-page summary of the concept and some sketches. We also talked about how Elvis would participate and decided he would narrate and give a demonstration. Elvis liked the idea for the film, but he said he was going to Las Vegas for a show the next morning and he would think it over. The next day, Waite received a call from Elvis. He asked Waite and his girlfriend to come to Vegas as his guests. Waite took a commercial flight and Elvis sent his private jet to pick up Waite's girlfriend, who was in another city. They attended Elvis's evening show and sat on the far right end of the stage during his performance at the International Hotel. At the end of the show, Elvis talked to the audience about his new karate film, and then he introduced Waite to the audience as the film's producer. He also introduced other guests, including Charlton Heston and a few other celebrities that were in the crowd. A private penthouse party followed with Bill Bixby, Charlton Heston, Mort Sahl, and others. Elvis entertained with a short karate demonstration and then asked Waite to take over. Waite said, I had just finished a series of demonstrations with Ed Parker, so a demonstration was easy for me. Elvis then took me aside and wrote me a check for $50,000. He told me to take the check downstairs and get it cashed so I could start the project immediately. Waite estimates the film was produced for the bare bones cost of roughly $200,000. The participants were not paid and many people volunteered their time. They decided to call the film New Gladiators. In January or February of 1974, Elvis called Waite to get a film crew to cover him giving awards at a demonstration. We didn't have a film crew available, but flew to Memphis. Elvis handed Waite a 16mm film of his performance, but they decided it was not suitable for the film. unfortunately. However, Elvis's demonstration was never re-shot. It was difficult to coordinate with Elvis's schedule. Then he passed away not long afterward. In a 1977 interview with Inside Kung Fu magazine, Waite said that the film was something that Elvis had wanted to do for years. A film of him and karate and what it was all about. Not a Bruce Lee film with a lot of flash or high kicks and jumps. Waite said, "After Elvis's death, I just lost interest in the whole project. I had liked Elvis a lot, and when he died, I felt a great sense of personal loss. Elvis was also the heart and soul and driving force behind the project, as he called us nearly every day to see how the progress was coming along. He really was deeply involved in the project since he loved martial arts and would do anything to promote it." As a result, the film was never finished. It sat in storage, and then Waite took it home and stored it in the back of his pickup truck, where it sat for the next 14 years. Don Warrener rescued the footage. After receiving the film, it was edited, cleaned up, and converted into a video and DVD format and released. It is 93 minutes long. And there is the movie. On February 18, 1973, a famous incident happened when three men stormed the stage when Elvis was performing and were promptly dispatched. Now, depending on who you want to believe, it was Elvis, his bodyguards, his bass player, or a combination of all of the above, took them out. You can hear this incident on a recording. There is a bunch of cheering and an obviously hyped up Elvis saying, "You want to shake my hand? That's one thing. But if you want to get tough, I'll whoop your ass." There's another story that is true, and this incident is honoured with a memorial stone. There is the memorial stone. And we can read together the what the incident is. The Elvis Presley fight scene on this site, the corner of Highway 51 and East Washington Avenue, around 1 a.m. on July 24th, 1977. Elvis Presley was riding in the second of two limousines which had stopped for a red light. He was coming from a concert and had just arrived in Madison. Elvis noticed a young teen on the ground being beaten by two other youths here at the former Skyland service station. Elvis jumped out of his limo and moved quickly to the fight scene. They admitted later that they knew it was the legendary Elvis Presley who was standing in front of them in his classic karate stance, saying, "I'll take you on." After a few classic karate moves by Elvis, the youths recognized him, stood and shook hands, and promised to stop fighting. Elvis asked, "Is everything settled now?" Elvis was on his way to the Sheraton and his last Madison appearance. He died 52 days later, on August 16, 1977. Well, there you go. So I hope everyone has now got a bit more of an education on Elvis and his karate. It wasn't just a little hobby he had, it was his second passion after his movie career. So I thought, for a song, what a better song to play than this. I hope you all enjoy.
Oh Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening, but they fought with expert timing. There were funky Chinamen from funky Chinatown. They were chopping them up, they were chopping them down. It's an ancient Chinese art, and everybody knew their part. From a fainting to a slip, and a kicking from the hip. Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. Yeah, but they fought with expert timing. There was Funky Billy Chin and Little Sammy Chung. He said, "Here comes the big boss. Let's get it on." We took the bow and made a stand. Started swinging with the hand. Sudden motion made me skip. Now we're into a brand new trick. Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening, but they did it with expert timing. Oh yeah. Somebody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. Make sure you have expert timing. Kung fu fighting. Hands and feet, fast as lightning. Keep on, keep on, keep on.
So there we go. Elvis doing his karate. It is a bit of Elvis's life that does not get much attention. Yes, everybody knew about it. Yes, everybody knew that he did karate and that he did train and that he did, have various karate teachers and he got lots of karate belts. But I really don't think a lot has been made. A lot of things have not been made fully aware of that in that time in Elvis's life. I really do think it was another one of his passions. So guys, thanks for watching. As always, it has been a pleasure to bring you another episode on our Elvis journey. Please, everybody, take care. Look after yourselves and look after each other. Don't forget to subscribe. It is free. Don't forget to comment. I do read every single one of your comments. And don't forget to like. I will see you all next week. Please take care. Bye.